Well, we finally did it. A week full of Spider-Man movies, and I'm just kind of glad I'm almost done with this. And by that, I mean Amazing Spider-Man 2. And let me tell you something, it's not that great at all either. In Spider-Man 2, we get a series of things that happen with characters and pretty much pushes its way through the 2-hour mark. And that's pretty much all it is. And I really was hoping for something good, something better, but in this particular case, there was nothing good about it, or nothing better. There were some really good scenes, but at the same time there were some really terrible scenes. Well, for one thing, there was a subplot throughout this movie where Peter Parker Spider-Man keeps seeing hallucinations of Captain Stacy, Gwen's dad, and he says, "Oh, I can't be with you anymore because Ghost Dad is haunting me." And throughout a good portion of the beginning, all the way to the halfway mark of the movie, they pretty much broke up, and while she's off and doing college work or whatever, Spider-Man's been doing saving the day and whatnot. And throughout the movie, they somehow managed to get back together for no particular reason. They'll just say, "Hey, let's just take the risk." Gwen says, "Okay, yeah, I'm ready to take the risk," even though she was already on board to begin with in the first movie. But despite my complaints about these two, I still enjoyed their relationship together. And the two do manage to play a very good role when it comes to their relationship status. I just really hated that subplot, which went absolutely nowhere. And speaking of characters that went somewhere but nowhere, the character Electro, played by Jamie Foxx, is absolutely good as a supervillain, but as an alter ego, he comes off as a little weird and creepy, which is nothing like the Maxwell Dillon in the comic books. In the comic books, Maxwell Dillon is an electrician who just got hit by a bolt of lightning. This one went the extra mile to make him look like a loser and a loner who pretty much had nobody except for Spider-Man. But no, that's only because Spider-Man just happened to save him on the streets, and he had developed this sort of pseudo-obsessiveness with him. And he just wanted to be noticed in the world. He's like, "I want everybody to see me." And when he becomes Electro, people notice him for 5 seconds until Spider-Man saves the day, and they start noticing him again. And he's like, "I want to be noticed." It was really terrible for the most part. But at the same time, I really did enjoy the character's CG powers and also the fight scenes that he had with Spider-Man. It was really intense at times, and it was actually pretty good. And it seemed like also that Electro had a bit of the Dr. Manhattan from a Watchmen type of ability, where he kind of disappears and reappears with energy, but I'm just kind of glad he kept his underpants on throughout the entire flick, other than walking around like a blue naked man. Although I really found it quite perplexing that at one point or another he was arrested in the Institute, got freed by Harry Osborn, but for some reason he came back with Harry at the Oscorp facility and got a suit, which I was like, "What the fuck did you get that? Where the fuck did you make time to make it?" Because it looked like a custom suit, because not only was it decked out in a suit, it was decked out with suit in black, but it also had like little light bulbs on the corner. I mean, really? But also the character who plays Harry Osborn, which was the Chronicle Kid, was kind of okay at times, but at the same time, he was just having they just kind of had a subplot with him where he just needed to be cured with Spider-Man's blood, and he just decided to hate Spider-Man because Spider-Man refuses to give his experimental blood to Harry Osborn. That may or may not save his life or alter him in some way. And now we got a Harry Osborn who hates Spider-Man again. And when he somehow finds a cure but also throws on the mechanized suit within the third act, it just kind of felt like it was rushing things as well. But also, his personality and character as the Goblin was extremely over the top. Way more over the top than Willem Dafoe when he played Norman Osborn. And don't get me started, they even had the audacity to kill off Norman Osborn just almost entirely within the first 20 minutes of the movie. He was just there, laying in bed, then they just showed the next scene where it's like, "Oh, he died from his disease." And I'm like, seriously, you botched Norman Osborn, man. You fucked that up. And I just fucking hated that. I felt like they had a direction when it came to this movie, but at the same time, they just were trying to cram one too many blocks into the structure of this movie, just trying to make it fit, which kind of did, but at the same time, it was just really kind of like forced, trying to crammed in there. I know a lot of people have said that either Spider-Man 3 or Amazing Spider-Man 2 is one of the worst movies of all time. In my personal opinion, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is very bad, but I still think Spider-Man 3 is the worst of the worst, because at least in Amazing Spider-Man 2 we don't get any benign dance scenes in this one. And for the most part, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was enjoyable in some scenes, mostly Spider-Man doing his crime fighting and his intense action scenes, which were not bad as well. And of course, rekindling his relationship with Gwen Stacy up until her death. Spoiler alert. I mean, if you ever read a Spider-Man comic book in the last 40 or 50 years, you would know she gets killed off, which was of course inevitable in this one. And her death scene was actually pretty good. I really enjoyed that. They made a really good way of her getting killed off with a combination of a huge, like a whiplash and of course getting smacked in the head by the concrete. And I was just like, really morbid, but also really good at the same time, which forces Peter Parker to stop being Spider-Man for like over 5 months, which I thought, all right, that's great. And of course he had to get back to it when he takes on the Rhino. And that's another thing that really driven me back, because in the trailer, before I saw this movie, the trailers promoted, the villains as Green Goblin, Electro, and of course Rhino. And I was hoping to get at least one fight scene in with Rhino. And we do, which immediately gets cut off, thus closing off the movie. And that really pissed me off. I mean, they could have edited at least a 2 to 3 minute fight scene and then closed off the movie, but they didn't. This movie can be annoying, but at the same time, it's not all that bad in comparison to Spider-Man 3, which is why, in my personal defense, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is bad, and it does receive a 1.5 stars, but it's not nearly as bad as Amazing Spider-Man 3, in my personal opinion. And as bad as that was, Sony was looking forward to making more of these movies, because from what I understand, they were trying to build up to a Spider-Man versus a Sinister Six type of movie, which I thought would be pretty good, because after having this one bad movie out of the way, they would have done more. But when you're owned by Sony, having their own financial problems as well, they of course sold the rights right back to Marvel. And of course, we get our proper reintroduction for a third time with Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And quite honestly, with only one more Spider-Man movie to go, I highly doubt that this Spider-Man Homecoming will probably be not the worst, but a fairly decent one, because you got a new group of villains to fight, Spider-Man with a new dilemma, and interactions with, of course, the main Marvel characters. Amazing Spider-Man 2, on the other hand, they had a lot of good stuff going for it, but at the same time, it was all just crammed in at once. And of course, a whole bunch of Easter eggs that was building up to something greater, especially with small Easter eggs like Alistair Smythe and Felicia Hardy, and of course the Ravencroft Institute. But of course, we're never going to see those ever again with the Amazing Spider-Man series. It started with 2 movies, and it's going to end with 2 movies. And quite honestly, it's probably for the best. And with Marvel Cinematic Universe getting the rights to Spider-Man again, I am very looking forward to finding out how they'll carry on this character throughout the rest of the series. I'm sorry if this feels like it's a little rushed, but after doing 5 days of this stuff non-stop, I'm kind of glad that it's almost over. But at the same time, where it stands on the current list of my favorite comic book movies of all time, you can see that a lot of the Spider-Man movies, they're not exactly up in the top tier level. Mostly from the vlogs that I've said, but also what I personally think. That some of the newer movies nowadays kind of puts more effort and it's a lot better. Well guys, thank you very much for watching this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to do a whole lot more of these movie vlogs, not just with comic book movies, but also some regular movies as well. Mostly just trying to get a feel for it. And if you guys like what you see, feel free to hit that Patreon button, subscribe, and also hit the playlist for all my other movie vlogs. Or watch some of my better videos, like the Tuesday Trends, or the travel vlogs, or better yet, the BootTube videos. Those are always a big hit. So, with that said, I'll see you all next time.